for me and my work, and kind of how the energetic emotional release technique really evolved, was realizing that you've got your conscious mind and your subconscious mind. Your conscious mind is like this, your subconscious mind is like this, and your subconscious really rules the show. It's like 95% of your, or more of your mental processing. So, you know, a lot of self-help gurus and even spiritual people talk about reprogramming your mind with affirmations and positive thinking. And that's a very conscious process. And yes, there is a little bit of subconscious influence through repetition and like relearning those concepts of I'm worthy, I'm deserving, and you say it enough, and there is a part of you that will start to believe it. But if you have a pattern deeply rooted in, you could say, your inner child, you know, that 4-year-old version of yourself that was told very distinctly that that's not the case, you know, that's a deeply embedded pattern that can even go down to your DNA. And so if you have that programming inside of your subconscious mind, you've got to have another way to access it. So it's helpful to have that conscious programming, that conscious reprogramming. But the energetic emotional release technique goes into the subconscious and the energy. And so we can energetically be holding onto these programs so that no matter what we say or think to ourselves or what somebody else says to us, the pattern keeps reemerging. And so what this process is a process of coming to awareness. And it's kind of like, you know, what they say about ghosts. If you look at a ghost in the face, I don't know if anybody has heard of this or not, but
I haven't. So this is new for me. Go ahead. I love it.
So apparently, if you look at a ghost and you say, I see you, I'm not afraid of you, and then it just goes away because it has no power over you, you know? And so it's very similar, like these patterns, these beliefs that we're holding on to. I'm not worthy, I'm not deserving. A lot of people have a fear pattern, like they had fear programmed into them at a young age, and then they always are living in this place of a certain level of fear. So that's there, you could look at them all like ghosts inside of you, and they're going to hang out with you as long as you avoid them, as long as you turn the other way and avoid them. And you know, because it can be kind of scary to look at those things and say, oh my gosh, I'm living in fear. Like, wow. I had no idea how much fear deep. I was living in until I released it.
So deep and so powerful. It's like everything you're saying to me, it's the analogy with the ghosts, I think is true for so many people walking around wondering why something keeps happening, why they keep feeling the same way, even though it's a different situation in the physical. It's like, no, this fear keeps coming up, or anxiety for a lot of people, right? Or depression. So powerful. Thank you for even that analogy. I think it's really, really helpful for people who are watching this or seeing the replay. What about this technique makes it different? You mentioned the subconscious mind. How could somebody tap into this technique on a regular day, in a regular moment?
So when I first discovered the beginning, so this technique has been evolving over the past 5 or so years. And in the very beginning, when I discovered the initial version of it, I remember being with my kids. They were like 3 and 1. So they were basically babies. And I used to have such a bad temper. And the littlest thing would set me off, and I'd be like, like I try to control them, like they get out of hand, and I just couldn't deal with it. And so I wanted to yell, but I started learning this process, and I was like, okay, stop everything. We're not going to yell. What I started doing is visualizing, okay, there's anger. Where is that anger in my body? Where am I holding on to it? Okay, I can feel it like right here. All right. And then imagine my body opening and visualize, like, you know, what would that fear look like if it had an image, if it had a body, if it had a form. what color would it be, what shape, what size, what texture, and really get in touch with the energy, like detach from the meaning behind it, because we can give any meaning to anger we want to.
Mm-hmm.
But, so let go of the emotion behind it and just look at, okay, what does that fear look like? Where am I holding on to it in my body? And then imagine your body opening up and releasing it. And so that's like the most very basic method of this. And there are more advanced ways to use it that can be a little bit more fast and effective. But in that moment when I wanted to just scream at my kids because I was so frustrated,
Mm-hmm.
I went through that process in a matter of 60 seconds, and I just calmed down, and I was able to speak from a place of compassion, and the anger just left. It was gone, and I was able to be rational again and have actually an insightful conversation with them.
So what I hear is there was this moment where you had a detachment,
Mm-hmm.
where you were able to detach from what was happening right in front of you,
Yeah.
give yourself that 30 to 60 seconds to check back in, go in with what you were feeling, put a visualization to it. So powerful. So to the stage perspective, or when somebody's doing their first podcast interview, or maybe their first Facebook Live, or on a live stage, how can we still use this technique in the moments leading up to it, maybe the morning of the actual event, so to speak?
Okay, so say it's the morning of the event and you're not quite feeling that pressure yet. You're not quite, it's more of like an excitement and preparation mode. Check in with yourself. I'm a huge fan of prevention versus reaction. So the best, in my opinion, is to get it before you start feeling that pressure. So maybe it's the night before. So check in with yourself, stop everything and just check in with your body, because the releasing starts with the physical body, because we physically hold on to these things. We hold on to the patterns in our body.
Mm-hmm.
And so do a body scan where you can close your eyes, take a couple of deep breaths, and check in with your head, your neck, your chest, your shoulders, your stomach, your legs. And you can ask yourself, am I holding on to anything? Am I holding on to any fear, any doubts? Are there any beliefs that I'm holding on to? And really become present with your body and become aware. And there might be something that you discover that you don't want to discover, but be present with that anyway. And sometimes when people truly become present with themselves and with their bodies, they are faced with pain, either emotional pain or even physical pain. So if that pain comes up, then stay present with it, because the longer you can be present with it, it's like looking at that ghost in the eye and saying, I see you here, and then it loses its power.
Mm.
So that's a good way to prevent, on an emotional, energetic perspective, prevent those nerves from like building up, is just being present with yourself. It sounds so simple and maybe too easy, but you would be amazed at what happens when you do that. And then when you do find like there actually is this ball of fear, in my throat, maybe because your throat is where people hold a lot of tension around speaking truth.
Totally. Yes, totally. I agree with that.
Yeah. So then you might notice like, oh, it feels like there's kind of this ball. It feels like there's, something. Some people think it's like barbed wire or something. Everybody's got a different image in their mind. And then so you can imagine that process of opening up your throat, feeling a beam of light shining into your throat. This beam of light, it's the vibration of love. And that love dissolves any fear, any doubt, any limiting beliefs that you have, so that light can actually draw up that energy, that emotion, or that belief that is restrictive.
So imagining the light coming into your throat, because of course our voices, we've got this toolbox right here.
Yeah.
So when we are scared, no wonder our voice gets small and everything kind of shrinks. and it's not very
Mouth
open,
gets
right?
dry.
Yeah. So it
Mm.
makes sense that we're envisioning this light coming through to our throat before a stage, Facebook Live, podcast interview, whatever it might be that you're being more visible on and trying to level up to. Here we are in this powerful year. So I had a question about the technique when you stare it in the face, whatever it is,
Mhm.
you stay present with it. Is there a trigger word that we now say to it to let it release? What do we do to let it go, if that makes
So
sense?
you would be surprised how simple it is. It almost seems like it's too simple, like, oh, I can just like release it. And like I said, there's actually, this is a piece to a bigger process that if anybody wants to learn more about the bigger process, that gets just gets a little deeper, and it works more long term to resolve the thing. You can let me know if you're interested in that, but yes, just the visualization of it. And I love that you mentioned the speaking to it, because that actually is another piece of the process, is communicating with this pattern, whether it's fear or a belief. You can speak to it and let it know, like, set some boundaries. And this really is a process of setting boundaries. And you can set a boundary that says, you know what, thank you. Thank you for all the ways that you've served with me. I just worked with a client today who's got this major built up anger pattern inside of her. And she was telling me that, she was so shy when she was a kid that the only way she could get herself to speak her truth is through anger. Anger was the only thing that would give her enough energy to actually speak her truth. And
Mm.
so that did serve her for the first like 12 years of her life. But now she's, in middle age, and it's not serving her. It's actually holding her back quite a bit. And
And
so,
it impacts every relationship, right? The one we have with ourselves, with our partners, with our friends, because if anger is the only way we communicate, of course, it's going to turn people off
mhm,
at some point.
absolutely,
That
absolutely,
makes sense.
yes. And she was even mentioning that some of her close friends were scared. Um,
Wow.
so major holding back on things. And so she was able to communicate with this anger and say, thank you for helping me to speak my truth as a child. And I'm done. I'm done with this pattern. I'm ready to move forward. I'm ready to move to that next step of communication where I don't need that anger anymore. And so she was able to, again, it's the conscious and the unconscious. She was able to come to that conscious realization and that conscious decision to say, I'm done with this anger. And it's, this awareness, there's a cycle of awareness. Like if somebody just, they just happen to know they have a lot of anger, and they can say to themselves, I'm done with the anger. Just because they said they're done with the anger doesn't mean they actually are. So going through that process of realizing, well, it actually has served me. And this is where it came from. It came from being yelled at as a child and feeling that anger was the only way to communicate and get what I want. Having that awareness and those realizations brings you to a deeper level conclusion about whether or not you're actually ready to let it go.
Whew. So deep. And folks, we are literally touching the surface of what Sarah really does. So powerful. One of the things I wanted to do was just to recap and then give folks a way to get in touch with you, Sarah, if they would, in fact, like more of this deep knowledge and release techniques that she offers. So one is the body scan check-in,
Mm-hmm.
breathe, and I'm just doing a quick kind of rundown here. Folks can catch the replay for more. Visualize. This was powerful. To stare something in the face, I think, is something we tend to run when we feel something. So to stare it in the face, to me, that was the big aha for me. And then recognize what you're holding on to, and then communicate it and thank it for how it has served you. Another aha, because I don't think I've ever thought of staring at it and saying thank you. Of anything, of any issue, right? I don't think I've actually said thank you to it. So I feel like this is a big breakthrough for a lot of folks who tend to, one, have nerves every single time and aren't recognizing the pattern. And then even if you don't have the nerves, but you sense repetitive issues coming up, this is a way to tap into the first step of really recognizing what's going on for you in your body, your throat. I love how you said your shoulders and your stomach, just being aware, that whole body scan. Sarah, I love it. What's the best way for someone to connect with you? And could you explain a little bit further about what it's like to work with you? What does that mean for someone? Because we've just touched on one technique, but I know you have a huge tool belt.
Yeah. So, well, people can, and first of all, you nailed it with that, your recaps, and it's
That's
really
the
cool.
journalist in me taking notes.
Um, so people can reach out to me. I guess Facebook is probably the easiest way. I tend to check that more often than other things. Um, and people can work with, I work with people one-on-one. And I have a program called Recharge, and this is a 12-week process that, it's really go at your own pace. Some people take a year to do it, some people take the 12 weeks, and it actually takes you through from your body, from the outside, deep within your spirit, to remove all of the aspects of yourself that really aren't yourself. These emotional patterns, these beliefs, this energy that isn't yours, that you thought you were responsible. You thought you were responsible for the pain, the anger, and the fear of the people around you. And that you just took it on for yourself without any awareness. And, the reasons that it's hard to show up as we are, whenever you feel like you're just not yourself, you just wish that you could, you have this image in your mind of who you could really be. Well, that really is you. If you have an image of who you could be someday, that is who you are now. You've just got all this stuff piled on that is restricting you from being who you are. So it takes you through that process of just, breaking down those layers and coming back to who you are. And I have everybody go through that. So you could do just the recharge, or we could work on a deeper level together for a more intensive experience.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Anyone who, I always say, if you feel compelled that what you're hearing in this moment is for you and you're hearing it from another coach, that I really believe in abundance, and you should reach out to what your body and your mind and your spirit is feeling. So if you're feeling compelled and pulled to someone, just know that I really do believe, and I've had a lot of coaches for different things. I really do feel that there's a reason behind it. It's your mind, body, your spirit, or all of them saying, this is meant for you. So I can certainly say that I don't bring anyone on here who I don't believe in. And I've taken Sarah's material, and she's fantastic and passionate and so heart-centered in what she does. So thank you, Sarah, for offering yourself to this group and providing your expertise and knowledge. And I look forward to having you back.
Yeah, thank you so much, Bofta. And thank you to everybody who joined us today. And